Hello, hello. I'm here with Chris Chambers, who's been a good buddy of mine for many, many years. And we were just marveling at the fact that it is currently 8 p.m. and we are drinking coffee. There may or may not be Baileys in the coffee, is the first thing. But we are drinking coffee. Chris is a singer-songwriter he's based in kind of the GTA, Toronto, Hamilton area. You grew up in Hamilton, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And he's a very interesting human as far as how he's kind of pursued what his kind of end game is. And we've been talking the last couple of days. I'm up here hanging, and I'm really excited for you guys to hear kind of where he's coming from and his opinions on not only creativity but also his vibe about being an artist and building kind of his thing. And one of our great conversations we had last night that I want to rehash is the idea that there's a lot of people that live that Sideman life, and that's kind of a path. But the long game of having your own brand and being you, Chris Chambers, man, that's the end game, you know?
Yeah.
And I think a lot of it can be the most difficult thing. For just to be personal quickly, it's like I've kind of chased some of those things too, and now I'm trying to do what you're doing, and I feel a little bit behind, you know, because you have put that time in and you have put that thing, and it's so beautiful because you've never really wavered from it. And I see it. I've, just hanging out with you and seeing some of the things that you have going on. It's like, it's a really, really beautiful thing. So, I mean, have you always kind of felt that that's the place you kind of look to?
It's funny because you say end game, but it was like, I think it's the start game too. It's like, it's a starting point. The one thing I never understood, as much as I'd love to go and do Sideman stuff, and have over like, some stuff. But I never understood anybody else who got a guitar or any instrument for that matter and didn't want to do something like of their own with it. You know what I mean? I don't know if...
So you're saying, I would agree with that. Like a lot of people don't go, I want to be a sideman. They go, I want to be an artist, right? That's how they start.
That's how I would just assume everybody did.
Yeah.
But it actually turns out that a lot of people just wanted to be...
a player.
Yeah. And to be frank, like, me too. Like I also wanted to be just a player, but my interest has always been doing my own thing no matter what I'm doing. Mm-hmm. I like to do it my way. Like I don't want to necessarily have to answer to anybody ever.
Yeah.
But unless I'm really into it. We were talking about that the other day too. Mm-hmm. Like, all the really cool gigs that I'd like to do, like I'm not getting those calls. Like, Stevie Wonder's not calling. That kind of thing.
Yeah, there's those artists that you would kind of drop everything for sure.
Absolutely.
But then you do it, and then you're out there, and you're kind of like Stevie Wonder. Although he would be a great boss, he's still your boss.
Yeah, but I'd be all right with that. That's one of them I'd be all right. It's because I've had in the instances where I've done the Sideman thing. Sometimes. I don't know. Maybe I'm just a jerk, but sometimes it's hard to take orders from somebody who's like I'd be the old guy at times. You know what I mean? And you're kind of going like, well, we could do it that way, or we could do it the way that me and all my musician buddies have been doing it forever, like the right way. But
well, I mean, I think it's interesting the interesting idea that. We all kind of have a path that we want to that we. I mean, would you say that yes, when you picked up your guitar, you're like, this is kind of don't want to have a boss. I want to be creative. I want to make my own music.
Absolutely. Or I want to make the music that I like when I'm out doing cover gigs and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I'm not playing anything I don't want to play.
Yeah.
That's my line. That's all. And bizarrely. That's a thing that I think for a time, and it probably still does to this day. Like I didn't play Brown Eyed Girl. I still don't. I've never played Brown Eyed Girl, or like a lot
because I've played it a few times.
That's what I mean. But everybody has. And I'm sure
more than a few times.
I'm sure that not only prevented me from getting certain jobs and certain gigs, but I'm also sure that it's also the reason that I do get hired elsewhere for like those people that somebody who goes, if I hear Brown Eyed Girl one more time, which is a great song. Let me just, but it's like, if I hear that one more time, I'm going to slip my wrists.
Well, it's interesting when you still do the cover gigs that you do. You pick the covers that you feel are a part of what
Who
you
I am.
enjoy and who you are.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I don't like doing. Yeah, good music is good music, really. And if I feel like if you can pull it off well enough, people will go with you. Like they'll follow you. They'll wait. Right? They'll be like, "Well, I don't know this song he's about to play," but if you can do it, people will go with you. And then like once you've got them. Once you have that trust with the audience, whether, and I mean, hell, you were out the other night, like long weekend, it was dead. Mm-hmm. All my gigs this weekend have been so far, pretty quiet. But the people that are there are engaged. Yeah. So, and that's important.
Well, I think that's also a difference too, with a Canadian audience. It was, I remember, there's a little more patience and art is a little bit more appreciated up here too. Not to say that, it's interesting. It was interesting watching certain tables engaged in what you were doing and the demographic of those particular people. I thought it was great. You don't really see that. Like you wouldn't see somebody at that place that you played last night. Yeah. Nobody would be playing those places in America anyway.
Yeah, exactly. But to me, but that's another big difference I've always found is that in America, in my experience, it's a culture of going out to see music. Yeah. In a different way than it is here. And I don't know if it's just by virtue of...
Well, how would you define that? I mean, we were talking about Chicago today and how it's such a lot
that's what I mean. Town. Well, there you go. Yeah. But that city was built upon, a lot of that back in there were a lot. It was I think the size of it perhaps has something to do with it. Like there's 30 million people in Canada, right? Yeah. So, what's the States at? 360 or something, 350 million people, whatever it is. Just by accident, there'll be 10 times the people at any given place. That's my simple math on the whole thing. So it's like, it's just kind of it's a different way. It's more in the culture in the South, in particular, or even in the States. Like, people are more willing to. Oh, there's a cover. Oh, okay, that's fine. That's fine. Like it's sort of bred a little bit more up here. Whereas like, there's places up here where years ago there were I remember playing for cover. There are still cover charges and stuff. But I remember in the Village years ago when everybody was playing down there, $2 at the door was nothing. $5 at the door. Yeah, sure, whatever. That's just what it is. That's fine. I'll pay that all day. Oh, there's a band in there? Okay, whatever. And there's clubs in Toronto like that still, too, which is great. Like, I'm a big believer in the cover charge. Like, you're going to go out, or, like, even if, I've always thought it would be great for bars to put, the musician tax on people's bills, because that does happen in some clubs here and there. It's like, if you were there for one set, that's going to...
Yeah, or the minimum.
Two drink minimum kind of thing, right? Mm-hmm. All that kind of stuff. But to me, that's a cultural thing. Like, as opposed to who's listening or not, or who's paying attention.
I see what you're saying. Yeah,
the numbers are out. The numbers are different.
What would you rather have? Would you rather have 100 people in there engaged for free, or would you rather have?
That's just it, right? Yeah. That's the double-edged sword of it, I guess. Yeah. Like, yeah, you always want to see more bodies in there. Well, Friday night, for example, I played this little pub that I play in town here, and it was just quiet, but everybody was there that knew me or kind of knew of me, and then there were a few people that had never seen me before, and between songs I could have a real conversation, like, hey, all right, well, this song, and I can actually talk about the song just for the sake of talking, right? Yeah. And it's like, sure, it was an empty, dead, lonely gig, but like if everybody's engaged, it takes the sting out of it, right?
Absolutely.
That said, that could get tiring too. Oh, great! Another engaged crowd of 3 people showed up tonight. You know what I mean? Like that. That's exhausting.
But that goes back kind of to the long game of you have a plan, and I think that the musicians in general, they can get a little focused on. They can look a little inward and look a little at their hands or their voice and be like, whatever comes my way, I'm just going to keep working hard and practice or whatever. But you have to look at the other side of it where. What's your plan? What are you going to do with this? If you want to make a living at this, how are you going to make it? And how are you going to do it? And they always say, and I'm super curious to ask you because there's a lot of people that are out there that are artists that have have nobody engaged in what they're doing, you know. And then last night we were out at the bar, and between sets, those guys were firing business cards at everybody around. So there's all these different methods.
I still have it.
I saw you put it in your wallet. There's all these different methods that I don't. I mean, like you said something interesting when that happened, which I want to talk about. But I know I'm a firm believer that if there's 3 people there, you engage with them
Absolutely
the best you can. So you hope that 5 show up the next
for
time.
sure. No, totally,
That's
totally
the way
of
it
that.
should be.
Yep.
Yeah, and then you get that one gig where they're all there, and you're like, oh, this is why I'm doing this.
Exactly.
And then we can. Well, I really want to talk to you about how that all translates to online now too. But go back to that. Let's go back to that marketing technique of engaging people, because you've done it for many, many years. As Chris Chambers, you have done that where you have all those people there. How do you engage them? Obviously, you tell them stories, and you go talk to them in the tables.
So you mean on the gig? Yeah.
Yeah. Give advice to young artists.
Okay.
Don't throw business cards on the table.
Yeah, don't do that. That's rules 1, 2, and 3. Do not walk by with your shades on.
That
and
was
throw
good
the
too.
2 business cards.
Yeah.
At the 2. Yeah, that's even funnier. Right? It's like you had no idea we were musicians, right? Like you just figured we were just some schmuck.
I mean, that could work. That could work for some people. I don't really know. I know it doesn't work for us.
No,
Yeah,
certainly
okay.
not. But we're not Toronto's hardest working.
No, that's what the business
Whatever
card
it
said,
was. Yeah.
Shout out to them. Hardest
You know
working.
what? Well, okay. So this goes back. This is what we were talking about. It's all one big night now. It's being genuine.
Yeah.
With whoever's there.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's really, a lot of people go up with some kind of a persona, I guess, or something like that. And you know what? That
A persona, because they're probably insecure about the
Perhaps.
fact that there's 5
Yeah.
people there, as opposed to just owning it.
But even exactly.
Mm-hmm.
But even at times, like I can see the necessity of something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you're playing to, well, hell, today we were watching that stupid Kid Rock thing at Woodstock, but it's like, I don't think Kid Rock acts the way he does on stage at home. Maybe he does. I kind of want him to, but
Yeah.
that for a crowd like that, and this is I'm making a leap here,
Mm-hmm.
but if you're playing to 500,000, it's perspective, I think. If you're playing to like 500,000 people at Woodstock, you have to go out there and you have to absolutely kill yourself on stage, and you have to own, and you have to be,
Which he was doing.
Absolutely.
I mean, whether you're into it or not, we both agree.
Exactly.
That man is doing something
he's
up there.
completely owning all those people.
Yes.
And but that's the character that's what he's getting paid that money to do, right?
Yeah.
Now, if he were at my gig on Friday and there were 5 people there and he came out and set off fireworks in the pub and was calling everybody, what's the, I don't want to swear. Can I swear?
You can swear, yeah.
Yeah. If he went out there and called everybody motherfuckers like he did at Woodstock, I would suspect 3 or maybe 2 of those 5 people would leave the bar going, yeah, he was all right till he started screaming motherfucker at us all. I'm just trying to have my beer, right?
Yeah.
So I think perspective on the gig you're doing is it because, no different than anything. Like, one day you do a cool gig, and then the next day you're doing that. And like, I mean, I'm playing the Canada's largest rib fest tomorrow, and that's
awesome.
there's a lot of people at that show, right? It's the
and
military.
they booked Chris Chambers.
Yeah. And it's cool, but that'll be a lot of people there.
Yeah.
But the last 2 days I spent playing, to 10, 15 people tops.
Well, that's
right?
like anything in life. I mean, if you're expecting it to be the best every time, it's just not going to happen.
It's exactly.
You sit down to write a song, and some days when you're finished, it's like you go, well, that was a good process, but that really sucks, and that's never going to see the light of day. And I think people need to remember that, because I think society is, and we'll definitely get into it, but I think society with the social media is thinking that everything has to be the most perfect thing, and you're being genuine, like I already know how you acted, because I know you, and I can see it. Is you're being genuine. You probably poke fun at the fact that there was 5 people there.
I love it. Yeah.
And you engage deeper with those 5 people.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And I see it on the social media with you, where people will take a picture of, like, you have loyal fans. Fans that are there, that want to be a part of your success and want to be a part of whatever it is that you create from your soul, and they're engaged with that, and I see it, man. And I think that you're right, that genuine thing is what's going to change the world soon, because we're getting tired of this bullshit that's like this fake stuff, and you're already on the cutting edge of that, you know?
Well, I hope.
Yeah, I mean, I guess all you can do is
that's the thing too. Like, thank you. Like, it's nice of you to say, but it's to me, it's just being yourself, right? It's that it's cliched and everything else, but like, just
anybody
be
that's
yourself.
an artist, how hard is that? Like, how many artists, like Demi Lovato almost killed herself recently.
Yeah, I heard
it's
something.
Like, how. I don't know. I mean, how many artists that are coming up are really allowed to be themselves? Because they have bosses. Like, you don't have a boss. You don't have a record label. You don't have a manager. Part, you don't have a booking
weird
agent.
way.
Yeah, and I mean, it's like they're...
When you put it that way, it sounds pretty sad.
Well, no, it's not sad. I think it's amazing.
I'm just kidding around.
But you don't have a boss telling you how to be.
No.
And I think that there are so many young artists that are being pulled in all these directions.
Well, yeah, and that's a problem too. And I see it actually. All right, let's get into this a bit. When I started, I was really young, and that was around the time that guys like Johnny Lang were coming out, Kenny Wayne, like, it was kind of a renaissance of...
Yeah, Johnny was super young too,
yeah,
right?
but all these, but for somebody my age who was younger, I would have been younger than him. Mm-hmm. That was like, I'm like, oh,
well, I can do that.
Why
in a couple of years.
Yeah, but not even like, it's like now. Why can't I do that now? Right? And then, years go by and you realize, well, guys like that, they came from some money, they had connections, they had a lot of that stuff going on, right? Mm-hmm. And then a lot of times, whether it was the parents or whether it was somebody else, was kind of pushing that. Like, that was, it's like, how many Musketeers became like Backstreet Boys or whatever else they became, right? It's
the Mickey Mouse thing, and
right?
Sure.
And I used to, so I would see some of these younger guys coming up, like a little bit older than me, in around my age as a kid, and I was, I think to myself, like, well, why can't I? Why am I not one of them? Why, I work hard, I play with these older guys, and like, on paper it would have made sense, right? Mm-hmm. And a big part of it is, like, my parents weren't, like, going to throw me into that, which is, like, looking back now at my age now, I go, thank God they didn't dress me up in the blues hat and the keyboard tie or whatever else, or the fedoras and all that shit. Mm-hmm. But it's like, because you wonder what happens to a lot of those kids as they get older, right? The novelty will go away, or
they fall out of love with it.
Or they'll just hate it. They'll just grow to hate it. So the fact that I actually kind of had to do it, like, if you're going to do this, you better bust your ass at it and work at it like a real job, like you're going to a factory. So I've always had that work ethic from my parents. Like, yeah, you want to play guitar for a living, start acting like it, kind of thing. You know what I mean? Where you see some of these young kids, and even today, I'm sure it still goes on today. I wouldn't know who the new young hotshot or whatever would be. But it's like, and it would also breed, I think it would also breed a level of laziness. Yeah. If you're young and getting a lot of stuff thrown at you and handed to you, where's the incentive to get better?
Well, that was Gary Vaynerchuk talks about that. He's a an entrepreneur guy that I've been digesting like crazy, and he talks about adversity and how everybody has certain types of adversities, and it could be anything. It could be anything from you don't have money, so you work really hard to get money. Yeah. It could be you don't have a talent, or you want to be I see this in the music industry a lot, where people will have natural talents. When we talked about this earlier, where it doesn't, I mean, as a musician, you have a natural talent. If you either have it or you don't have it, but you have to work your ass off to be successful. Absolutely. And if things are easy for somebody, they're less inclined, as in human nature, to work hard at it because it comes easy to them. Mm-hmm. So I see a lot of musicians that I look at them and you can kind of tell, and I'm not gonna say any examples because it's just my own opinion, but you look at them and you go, man, this is not easy for them, and they had to it's almost like comparing it to dyslexia, where you have to find ways around it. Yeah. And I look at these people and these players, and I can see them processing it in their head. It's not a natural flow. Yeah. But they're still great players. Yeah. And And they're some of the most successful ones because they've had that adversity where it wasn't easy.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think that's a beautiful gift that your parents gave you, to be like, if you got to work for it.
Well, absolutely,
you know?
Absolutely.
And you're right. I mean, if it comes easy for kids, if they burn out.
Well, that's the
Totally
thing, right?
that,
And that
yeah.
was the other thing we were talking about last night as well, is like everybody wants to be famous, but nobody wants to be great anymore.
Yeah.
But you and I and other guys in our age that I know, that respect, obviously, we all just wanted to be great. We all wanted guys, you know, and you would love to have John Coltrane go, yep, that's the man right there. Like that kind of
Well,
thing.
so
right?
just service the music appropriately.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, for sure.
But
and service what's in your soul.
But even to get that, you know,
Yeah.
like the
well, that admiration is definitely
the
that's
nod,
just the thing,
even just
yeah.
the nod of improvement of like,
Yeah.
you're getting it. You're getting like that.
Yeah.
In musicians' minds, is worth everything,
Yeah.
right? Like all the money and bullshit. I mean,
Well, I love that thing we were talking about where it was on another thing I was checking out, where people are chasing either money, power, or celebrity,
Yeah.
and none of that leads to anything that's
Real.
yeah, because they're always going to be chasing it.
yeah.
Yeah.
That's the other thing too. I would suspect if you were,
Well, I'm listening. The Power of Now, Eckhart Tolle is a brilliant guy, and he talks about that. He talks about how if you look for pleasure outside of your body, you're never going to be happy.
Yeah.
But if you look for pleasure from inside of your body,
Yeah.
that's satisfying. So
Well,
I mean,
that's-
that leads to drinking, to drugs, to
Oh, yeah.
to money, to buying new cars. You're never going to have a nice enough car. You're never going to have a
Yeah.
nice enough house. But if you can make yourself happy from the inside,
well, that's what we were
the-
talking about. I think even earlier today, like all the things that I like to do don't really cost a whole lot. Like
Yeah.
me sitting around, like writing
yeah, because
music.
you're
and
satisfied
sitting
doing
and-
what it is
and-
you're going to do.
Yeah, goofing around, like, you know, writing jokes and stuff like that, or doing whatever, writing music.
Well, I definitely want to
drawing.
talk. I want to talk about your cartoon thing.
Oh.
I'm going to look this up quickly to make
Yeah,
sure I
yeah.
got it right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I definitely want to get it right. If you haven't checked that book out, The Power of Now is
Okay.
ridiculous. For anybody listening as well. I'm only on chapter 4, and I know that I'm already going to want to read it when I'm done again. But yeah, so I think that's an interesting thing, that you kind of always had that inside of like that's your vibe. That's what you're kind of chasing.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
So let's talk about this creativity thing that we were talking about today. So there's that awesome Time Life. It's Time Life, right? Time magazine.
Magazine,
Time
yeah,
magazine
it's
had
respe-
this thing on creativity,
Yeah.
and we were talking about Da Vinci and how you said something to me yesterday where you're talking about you just haven't put out product. Because you haven't or put out songs because they're kind of not really finished and you don't
Yeah.
feel ready for it.
Yeah.
What is your process as far as writing, creating, and building something, and seeing the end line? Do you see the finish line? Do you see the process ahead, or are you in it at that moment of I'm writing this song for this reason, I'm capturing it, or do you look at about how it's going to be perceived on the other side at all? How it's going to be
Perceived by who? Myself or others?
by people that care about you, the people that the people that are coming to your shows, that are engaged with what you're doing.
To be honest, that's another part of, like, I don't care.
Yeah.
Like, I like
But then why don't the songs
So-
get released?
so many times. Well, that's me. That's my own
Okay,
neurosis.
because that's what I'm asking. I'm
Yeah.
curious because I know
Yeah.
that's every artist's problem.
Yeah.
How do you finish something
But,
and get it
well,
out there?
okay, well, I'll tell you this. So my buddy Tim, who you met,
Mm-hmm.
Tim Tickner, who you met last night, who's been a real mentor to me for the last year now, since I've known him, worked in the jingle business. And he just basically hit me with that attitude of like, just fucking write something, move on to the next one. So now, since I've had that, I've been writing, like, my productivity has been insane. So I've been writing, like, I haven't really played you much of what I've been doing, but I've got piles and piles of stuff just sort of at 80% or 89% done. So, and the one thing I will say is some of my setup, my recording setup, I've got to go elsewhere to do certain bits and pieces here and there.
Yeah.
But yeah, releasing stuff now is just I'm back in the swing of doing it, because now all bets are off. Like, it's just put something out and move on kind of thing. So I put something out, I guess, last, I don't know, 2 months ago. It's out on streaming services right now. And it's electronic music I put out, which is not...
Under your name?
Yep, which is not what anybody would expect from me. And I don't care.
I love it. That's
like,
the way to be.
just here, like that, okay, whatever. And that thing I played you the other night, that's a guitar, that's back to the whole guitar thing.
Yeah, I love that song. I can't wait for that to get
thanks,
out.
man.
Yeah.
But it's... Yeah, at this point now, I'm just getting back into I'm actually following through on a lot more stuff than I would have years ago, where it used to be like, I have to do this album, and it's got to have these kind of songs that all fit in this common thread, because I have to put it out on a CD, and I have to sell it, and someone's going to buy it, and I'm going to make tens of hundreds of dollars off of it, right?
Yeah.
Like that's all gone. That was never here for me. Like I've never sold a whole ton of records and all that stuff, but people come see me live, so it's kind of it's a
branding tool. It's a marketing tool.
It's total business card. Yeah. But that's sort of the other happy accident that I kind of run into is like people will come and see me, which is nice. So it's like I can always support my living that way. Is that people seem to come and hang out and enjoy whatever it is I do live, whether it's acoustic or whether it's with my band or whatever like that. So, but that takes time, right?
Yeah,
to
of
your
course.
Point.
And I mean, I think that something that is important for artists that are like yourself, which I know that you're in the process of, and something that I really focused on. I remember when I was living in New York City and I was pursuing the artist thing for the time that I did before I kind of pursued other things, but that was when you need to brand yourself. You had to, the web design was a thing, you know. And I called a couple web designers, and they were like, "It's going to cost $20,000." And I was like, "Jesus, I don't have $20,000.
Yeah.
I can teach myself this."
Yeah.
You know. And then you're like, I did my first record. My first record cost $9,000 to make, and I don't think anybody's ever going to hear it. Like I listened to it, and I'm like, I just was a part of the process.
I still have it upstairs. I have it upstairs.
And I it was a point in my life which was beautiful, and it was a super duper learning experience because I was there to cut it. I was there watching the mix. I was there watching all that stuff. And I thought to myself,
that's worth $9,000 right there, man.
Absolutely. Yeah. It was a $9,000 go to school education. And we were talking about, I keep saying we were talking about it. We should probably have had a podcast the whole last 3 days. But some things would be omitted for sure.
Yeah, there's a few things we'd have to leave out.
Yeah.
Like me kicking your ass at Mortal Kombat.
Well, it's my first time playing. What's up, man?
Whatever.
I beat you a few times.
I know.
I'm thinking about that now. Yeah, Scorpion can just
get over here.
Go back to where he came from. But yeah, teaching yourself the process, and I think that if you can make it easy and cheap to make the content for yourself, but make it have high quality, that's the future for these musicians. And that's what you're seeing that in the rap game. You're seeing these guys can go in and build these tracks for. I mean, they're great with the plugins and the samples now. They sound great, and then they're cutting a vocal on top, and they're releasing them, and then they're getting in Fortnite, and they're making millions of dollars. I mean, it's ridiculous. That actually
kind of answers your last question as well. Is like it was when I put my first record out. I think I was 21 or 22 years old. I'm 34. I don't have any money now. 21, I was like dirt poor. Yeah. So, but luckily, the cool thing about being a musician is that like my drummer at the time. He had a studio. He still does.
Perfect.
So I recorded my first 2 albums with him I got friend rates. You know what I mean?
Reduced
Which
rate.
is great. But it's like for the average person just trying to scratch out a career, it's like, come record at this big fancy studio. It's only $5,000 a day or what, you know, as much as you're willing to spend, they're willing to charge you. Whereas now I can work at home fast and I can work direct and
there will come a time where you will have that money to go and do those records in those places. Those places still serve a purpose, but I think that it's such a gift that we have of this technology that's been given to us as a gift of like you can make something that sounds really great.
There's a dark side of that is that every asshole with a Mac now.
Yeah, but you either adapt or die.
Yeah.
I'm with that.
No, I don't mean but I mean like now what was supposed to give guys like us a leg up has actually floated a lot of people, a lot of kind of mediocrity
Yeah,
into the gene pool as well, if you so to speak. Like everybody can make a record now. Not everybody should. That's kind of the other thing too.
But that's like what we talked about with the Twitter thing, and I thought that was a really interesting thing that I wanted to make sure that you said on tape. But
Well, I can say it again if you want.
But the idea that you're one tweet away from it being shared tens of thousands of times. If you say you can be somebody that lives in Arkansas in the middle of nowhere, and you can be a comedian or you can be a musician, and you can be one song away from being pop. Like you can put a song up for very cheap. I mean, all you need to do, like, there's these new services now. I mean, it used to be TuneCore. TuneCore is great, but it's still kind of expensive. Like, there are services now where you pay like $9.99 for the year, and you can release unlimited music on Spotify, on iTunes. And I'm trying to think of the name.
I've been using a really great one actually that masters as well. It's called
nice.
Lander.
Oh, I've heard of that.
And it just uses...
My mastering friends don't like it, but
I imagine they don't.
If they're listening, I'm sorry.
And you know what? I have a couple pals with some pretty serious ears in that world, and they did an A/B versus this AI mastering and, like, expensive mastering, human mastering, and
wow, okay,
it's tight.
Yeah, I've heard interesting things, probably out of fear,
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
It's their job.
Well, exactly.
It's like self-driving cars. It's like eventually
we don't need those. We don't need those.
That'd be pretty awesome. Though. You can just sit in the back seat and work.
Yeah, in theory, again, on paper, that's a great idea.
Until they start killing people.
Exactly.
And the AI start taking over. And
I've seen Terminator way too many times to trust any of that shit, man.
Oh my! It could be all Decepticons in hiding.
Oh man, I unplug my toaster every night before I go to bed, just in case shit gets
We are definitely of the Transformer.
Oh, big time!
Scared of technology generation.
Do you remember that movie? It was Maximum Overdrive.
I don't think I've seen that.
It was a Stephen King. I don't even know if it was a book. It was fucking terrible, but if it's on, I watch it because
it's one of those.
I'm a sadist, and it's like all the things start like. Everything, like these pickup trucks started taking over. Like they became aware and started crashing through everything. And it was kind of like Tremors, except with machines. I remember at one time, the turkey, the electric turkey carving knives.
Yeah.
Attacked a woman in the movie. It's incredible. It's called, and I think AC/DC was used for the soundtrack.
Of course.
And it's from the 80s. It's fucking terrible. But we could watch it later if you want to.
Let's do it.
It's so bad.
I feel that way about Starship Troopers. Whenever that one's on, I gotta watch Starship Troopers.
That was a classic.
Classic movie. Oh. Yeah. I mean, I first time I watched it, I'm not gonna hide it. I mean, I cried when that girl died, man. I was heartbroken.
Is it wrong that I laughed when Macaulay Culkin got stung to death by bees?
No, that's right.
All right, just checking.
I think he's doing okay.
He's done all right for himself.
Yeah. So let's talk about, speaking of laughing, let's talk about kind of how you have this other outlet that developed itself. I mean, in your house here, I see a lot of... And by the way, this is the first podcast on the road. So I'm in Chris Chambers' awesome house here in Hamilton, Ontario. It's awesome. It's beautiful. And you have a lot of comic book stuff around. Yeah. Because you obviously were a fan.
Still am.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And... the thing I love about you is, and the reason why when you asked me if you said, can I cuss? And I'm like, of course, because that's you.
Well, yeah.
Yeah. And you have it's not and I say the word, I'm going to say the F word, and it's not in a negative way, but you have no filter. And that's a good thing. Like, you can be yourself.
Yeah.
And I think that's an important thing that a lot of people... Because society puts these things on us, like you can't say that, Chris. It's like, well, why can't I say that?
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, you're not going to go to a elementary school.
There's a time and place for everything.
Yeah. And whatever medium that you're expressing yourself, I think that you do it in a really, really great way. So talk to me. So explain the concept of drawing these cartoons and where it comes from. And your process for creating them, because you love it.
Okay.
And that's what I really think that's neat about it.
Okay.
Like, you love it in a different way than you love music, I'm assuming.
It's yes and no. Well, yeah, it's it's kind of a release valve. So what happened, like years ago, when I was a kid, I used to draw all the time, and I just loved it. And I was okay. I wasn't really good, but I was okay. But like with music, I work hard at it. Like I just wanted to do it enough that I just kind of kept doing it. I never stopped. And then for a while, I stopped. I was hanging out with a lot of people that were really good at it, and I was so focused on guitar anyways that it just became a back. It was like, oh yeah, I used to draw when I was a kid, but you know, the guitar moved in and fucking everything went aside. I was just like, that was it. And it was great because, you know, I got pretty good pretty fast. Just, you know, if I can toot my own horn there.
Yeah, that's good.
But
I mean, you're expressing yourself through it, and I think that's
yeah.
the hardest place to get to.
But I dumped everything into it,
Mm-hmm.
right? And all through my teenage years and in through my 20s. And it's great because you get proficient, but there's also a negative side is that you neglect everything else in your life, like fucking health, relationships, whatever, right? Like everything takes a back seat to it. So I was working so much, like through my 20s and all that stuff, like that I needed something else to do. So I'd broken up with a girl, and she's an artist, and so I went out. I knew the kind of books that she would use, so I went out and bought one of those, and I'm like, I can fucking do this too. And I realized very quickly that I can't. But what I could do was write jokes, and I always wrote my jokes. I still write my jokes down. I showed you earlier. And so
Yeah, I love that. I want to talk about that.
yeah,
too.
so basically I would just sit, listen to music, and just kind of draw silly cartoons that I thought were fun. And that started up again years ago. And it's, you know, shit. I think I just counted the other day too. I think I've got 15 sort of volumes of those books full of just one-liners, just cheap one-liners, like kind of the Far Side, sort of, but the further side, I guess you could call it. And the idea was to put out a book, and I just never bothered because I was just having too much fun doing it. Like the process to me was so much more fun than actually having to sit there and go, okay, well I could use that one and that one and that one. So now it's just, you know, sort of the inmates have taken over the asylum, so to speak, the little thought bubbles in my head. So now, and it's just a great way to sort of unwind for me, or to even get that part of my brain going. So if I get up in the day, and I'll wake up and I'll head out to the coffee shop with my book and with my headphones, and I'll have a coffee or something like that, and I'll draw something, and maybe I'll throw it up on Instagram or something I might just keep for myself. And then I'll come home and I'll get back to working on music. But it's like, it's kind of gets the gears going, rather than just waking up and going into my office and trying to get my hands to start working and playing, and just trying to be, boom, be creative right now, go, everything's going to be great. I can go and I can kind of ease into it, and it's a little bit, I don't know, it's kind of more natural in a weird way, like, because your brain's already kind of warmed up, even though it's in a different discipline. Like we were talking about before, right? That same
parts,
same part of the brain's being used to.
And you're building that muscle just through a different.
That's just
It's like
and just
working arms, and then you're working your legs. Yeah, for sure.
Exactly. So so the process there is really just kind of keep your antennas up. Like if I see something happen out on the street, walking around, or like. What the hell did we talk about? What was it we were talking about today?
You're talking about the race car driver.
Oh yeah. So the joke was,
you're a big Formula One fan.
Yeah,
you're talking about a guy. That's
Ayrton Senna had left all of his he left his wealth to the poor, and I figured that Lewis Hamilton, who I'm not a fan of, was just going to leave all of his money to Nike or to Apple or whoever like that. Yeah. But just sort of goofy stuff like that. It's funny for us to joke about, but then if you can kind of make a funny picture about it or something like that. Yeah. And again, they're a little bit more outside. That was a pretty tame joke compared to some of the other shit that I post.
I've seen some of them. Yeah, it's good though.
Well, thank you.
So for me personally, you disagreed with me the other day on something, and I'm interested about your perspective on it. The way that I would look at getting something from beginning to end, it takes a lot to get something finished, for sure.
Yeah.
And there are people on this earth that are good at that. And they'll take, because I'm envisioning at some point, if you do make a book, instead of you going through them, you hand it over to somebody who's an editor, that's their job, or a publisher, and they go, but then there's your boss again, so I don't know if you're willing to do that.
I'm a control freak. That's the problem, man.
So, I mean, but, there are people that do that, and
Yeah.
then they would be responsible for putting it in a form that works and getting this that works and then distributing it. Like,
Well,
there's
to
people.
be fair, I have a collection of rejection letters from various
Oh, nice.
publications.
Okay. I say nice because rejection letters are fabulous.
I-
It just
I-
means they weren't for the right person.
I have them, and the working title for the book when I was going to put it out is Shithouse Reading for the Modern Man.
Oh, I love that.
That was the goof of it.
But you can't say man anymore
I-
with this gender stuff that's going
oh
on.
my goodness.
Let's not get into that.
Oh, let's not. But there was nothing more entertaining for me than getting these rejection letters. It's like, dear Mr. Chambers, I represent so and so classic big fancy publishing house name. At this time, we regret to inform you that Shithouse Reading for the Modern Man is not what we're looking for in our.
Was there a hem in there too?
Oh, they're all dude. I have several, and by several I mean probably about 20.
I hope you put them on your wall.
I have them saved somewhere. I have
Oh,
the
yeah.
photo.
You
Yeah,
got it.
one day I'll frame them or something
Yeah.
like that. But they have to put it in there.
Yeah.
I get maybe it's
The
a legal,
title.
it's a legal reason maybe. Like if somebody else were to come and pitch
You
that
can
title.
you could totally see him just pausing and going,
Oh Jesus, here we go. Yeah, exactly.
I would make a book with a terrible, awful title and just send it to them for fun, just to get the rejection letter.
We could do that later.
Yeah, let's come up with something interesting. So that's the end process. So let's talk about the editing process, which is what you disagreed with me on, which I definitely want to talk about. So the way that conversation went down was I said, when you're in that place of having the bug to create, just keep creating. And then when you get to the editing process, that's easy. That's the part where you're like, okay, I got the hard part out of the way because I've been given this gift from whoever to do this, to get this to this place. Now I can start weeding through it. And that's my process is. It's like if something's happening to me and I have to sit down and I regurgitate whatever. And I'd stop editing myself, and then I come back and I'll edit. And that editing to me is the easy part. But you disagree with me. You said that it's equally as difficult.
Yeah.
Can you explain yourself?
Rarely. I think it's such a. It varies so much that, it's the old story like, hey, how long did yesterday? Paul McCartney wrote yesterday in like 8 seconds. You know what I mean? That kind of thing. It's like no editing required there. So that was done.
Yeah.
And
Or Dylan like a Rolling Stone.
there you go, right? Like there's a million examples of these incredible songs that had zero editing to them. And so in that case, yeah, editing's easy. But it's not always that way. And
So if you're editing something a lot, do you feel like it's less like the quality is less? Is that a thought?
No, I feel like sometimes you can only take something so far. Like it's the old, you can't polish a turd, right? Like something's like
At some point you throw your hands in the air and go, this is not going to work.
It's either done or it's not worth doing.
Got it.
Kind of thing. That was sort of I think I just wanted to argue too when I disagreed with you.
That's fine.
Was looking for a
I'm
fight.
happy to argue. I'm not going to throw any punches.
No,
but
I'm not
happy
either.
to-
No. I'm a pacifist.
Are you now?
Sure. Do you want some more coffee? Are you good?
No, I'm good, man.
All right.
Are you really asking me if I want some more Baileys?
I'm not asking you if you want some
I'm
more
good.
Baileys.
I'm good.
Did you like it? It's your first
great.
time
Yeah, it's
having
the
it.
first Bailey's experience.
Awesome.
It's really good. The caffeine mixed with alcohol is an interesting feeling. Yeah, it's good.
It's a nice kickstart in the morning, that's for sure. Especially mornings like today. Oh my god.
Yeah, that was. Yeah.
Let's not get into that for now, at least.
So tell me about the thing that I remember when you first sent me your first kind of record.
Mm-hmm.
There was a song on there that I really, really loved. You have kind of, I mean, the whole thing was the thing that you have a sound about yourself that doesn't sound like anybody else. And I may have said that to you at the time.
I remember the song. I still know the song you're talking about.
Yeah,
too.
when I first listened to that, I thought to myself, you kind of have, and I know it now. You definitely love. There's a certain era of rock that I think that you really like.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously you love Hendrix and
All
you
of
love
it, yeah,
the blues
but-
stuff. But as far as songwriting is concerned, like you're in an interesting place where you've said some names to me that bring back incredible memories. We talked about Third Eye Blind last night.
Yeah.
I mean, some interesting places. And when I like the '90s and,
Yeah.
and the early 2000s, like that seems to be kind of a songwriting wheelhouse for you.
Well, yeah. I mean, I came up with, like, I grew up listening to Prince and like all Stevie Wonder and Motown and all that great stuff. But that music at the time was already 30, 40 years old.
You're true.
So, growing up, in the late 80s and 90s, I had all kinds of cool shit. Like I had, obviously, Prince was still going on then. But the whole Seattle thing happened.
Yeah,
And so bands like Soundgarden just blew me away. And then into that sort of, bands like Third Eye Blind, like, it was great songwriting. There was such great songcraft in that.
Oh, yeah.
But it still had, it wasn't traditional rock music where it's like, okay, here comes the guitar solo. Like, on a lot of that stuff, like, for a guitar nerd like me, to really enjoy stuff that's void of that, like, it was a different approach to the instrument, which I thought was always cool. Like, it was more about, and it's something I'm trying to get better at, is using the guitar more as an orchestral almost instrument at times. Like, it's just trying to use more instrumentation, I suppose.
Yeah, you said
rather
that to
than
me
leaning
today.
on just being
Just the guitar.
guitar hero kind of horseshit. Because there's so many of those guys out, and it doesn't matter. Like that you get lost in a sea of that. But the cool thing about a lot of those '90s guys is, chops didn't necessarily
So they're
matter.
crafting
the same way
parts,
it
is
did.
what you're saying.
Yeah,
They're stacking parts.
Yeah, and that to me is always interesting, right?
Mm-hmm.
You can have like 3 or 4 guitar parts on a song, and not one of them is a solo.
Yeah.
There's not really a solo,
And they're taking up different frequencies.
Yeah, and they're all talking to each other in their own kind of way. So yeah, but that music of that time, there's a lot of that. Like Soundgarden is my go-to for a lot of those, just because I thought the songs were cool, and they had enough. There was kind of enough nerdy stuff going on as well, like odd time signatures and shit like that. And lyrically, it was always brilliant. Like some really dark stuff. Alice in Chains was like that too. Really great lyrics from a lot of Stone Temple Pilots. Yeah. Dean DeLeo, what a guitar player that guy is, man. He's a jazz nerd, but he was bringing that into rock music. Like if you start lifting Stone Temple Pilots songs, he's not playing straight ahead power chord kind of rock and stuff like that. Like he's playing some pretty involved stuff, and there's very cool harmony happening under a lot of that music, which so it can appeal, but for people that don't understand that, it's just cool.
Yeah.
Like
Accessible.
It's accessible to everybody, but it's cool for a million different reasons other than just, Scott Weiland running around screaming his head off, which was awesome.
Yeah.
But
Well,
yeah.
I find the thing that I love about specifically like a Third Eye Blind or some of that more poppy stuff was my favorite thing is hearing, like, I was a big Bare Naked Ladies fan because they would talk about awful, terrible things and all these things that are going on in these stories, but they're just happy and they're go lucky. It's like Third Eye Blind was a master at that.
Oh,
craft.
absolutely. The juxtaposition
of the happy melody with the lyric, and you start. I mean, Semi-Charmed Kind of Life is about drugs.
Yeah,
He
was I think he's a meth head or something like that, or I think.
I'm sure he's done it all.
Yeah. But he wrote. Look at the tunes that came out. That guy, he's an interesting dude. That guy's very much. What's his name? Stefan Jenkins, Stephen Jenkins, Stefan Jenkins, the singer for Third Eye Blind.
I can see his face, but I don't know.
And that guy, like when you read his lyrics, like, that guy's an artist, man.
Oh,
like,
absolutely.
Like he's got some really interesting stories to tell, and which is another thing. It's like now, I mean, he's got to be close to 50 now, I bet, or something like that.
Well,
I mean, that first album's 20 years old.
Oh my god! I
Right?
forgot.
Yeah. Let's not get too deep down that rabbit hole, but. There's only so many interesting things you can sing about when you're 21, for the most part.
True.
Like, there's an exception to all that, of course. I mean, you look, the Beatles wrote a lot of really cool stuff very young. Tom Waits, a lot of these guys.
Oh, but the Beatles were in the bars and.
But that's what I mean.
Seeing all that stuff.
You're
happening.
living, yeah.
they
Whereas
were living
now,
life,
it's like, like Justin Bieber cannot speak to me. Like what is he? What are we going to relate to?
Yeah.
Other than the fact that we're both Canadian. That's it. That's the only common ground.
I mean, to play devil's advocate on that, because I do think he gets a bad rap at times. But I mean, he is talking about relationships that he's going through. I mean, love yourself. I mean, I see the perspective of that. I understand what you're saying, but when I listen to Love Yourself, he's augmenting a relationship breakup that he had. So he is singing something that matters to him. So you got to respect him for that. And I think that song is finely crafted personally.
I think I had to teach that to some kids before.
Dude, I think it's brilliant.
But that's okay.
But he is. I mean, he's not talking about stuff that I think he's talking about things that he understands.
Yeah,
you know. But it's very simple.
And that's what I mean. It's
simple.
valid, and it's like, you know, sometimes I want, you know,
well, I mean, we talked about the Jumper on that first Third Eye Blind record. It's about somebody
song about suicide.
It's about suicide.
Yeah.
So, and I mean, you know, and I think that in today's society, if you want to be a top 40 radio person, you can't do that anymore, man. You can't bring that kind of sadness to the world unless you mask it in something.
Yeah.
I mean,
well, Death Cab for Cutie did quite well.
That was mid 2000s.
Yeah. Oh, good point.
I mean, it's 2018. Like, I think you either have to talk up.
Oh no! Oh no!
I don't know why I just said that.
I'm late.
I think you got to talk about sex. You got to talk about simple relationship breakup stuff. I mean, I don't think.
Yeah, but all those bands did as well. But it was just, I don't know.
I agree with you. I mean, I think the poetry in certain things is lost and the attention span is lost. But I think the beauty in it now, and this is the way that what we've given up. So to look at it in a positive light, because I'm painting it in a negative light. The beauty now is that you have these branches of artists that are free to say what they want to say. They don't have somebody saying, we need you. If you choose to be a top 40 radio person, you know that you're going to have to sacrifice way more than you did in 1997.
Absolutely.
And if you don't want to be, much like yourself, you can be like, hey, guess what? There's this beautiful thing called the internet, and you can access the world from it. And now you have this ability to reach all these people. Yep. So that's the beauty that's come out of it. If the simple people, I mean, I will say, I'm just thinking, on top of my head, I am a huge, massive fan of The Weeknd. I freaking love him.
I like a couple. I don't know enough of it, but the stuff I've heard, I think is cool.
And he talks about drugs and stuff like that. But he talks about how he grew, like, it's authentic, like how he grew up. I mean, he had a rough childhood. Yeah. Justin Bieber did not have a rough childhood. So he can't talk about that. But The Weeknd, I mean, he inflates it. You know, he inflates about rolling back into Scarborough in a Bentley. It's like he and you know how he used to steal Nikes off kids to get money for drugs. Like he inflates everything, which is fine. That's what music is.
The key to good storytelling.
Exactly.
Right?
Take a moment and make it more dramatic. Yeah. Absolutely. So, but I think this internet thing, man, it's going to stick. And I think
go on. Where do I find this internet?
I think that the next step is, like we talked about, is if you're genuine to yourself and you connect to those people, you can have a fan base. And here's the thing that I didn't think about, that I want to, that you've always believed, and it hit me last night, because I have always been of the mindset that you need, and I will say that if you want to do certain things in the music industry, you have to go certain places to do them.
Yeah.
So I have been very lucky to have toured with many famous people at a high level, and I've also been very lucky to be in sessions with lots of high level people. But I had to do that in Nashville. I couldn't do that somewhere else. But now that I'm looking at myself as like, okay, well, I'm looking at doing more of my music. You can do that anywhere.
Well, that's just
and that's your thing. That's where you're at. You have this beautiful thing where you can reach people,
tens of people
from around the world, and all you got to do is put a little energy into finding those people and hooking those people, and putting out good content to hook those people, and being genuine and being yourself. So if there's that person in the bar that you're connecting with, how do you translate that now to online? How do you make that so that person gets the real Chris Chambers, so they're hooked? That, I think, is the next key for everybody. It's like, how do you be yourself online? And I don't know what the answer to that is. Yeah, because that's the move. It's the equivalent of you walking up to somebody after your show, shaking their hand, looking them in the eye, saying thank you for being here, and connecting with them on the stage and joking with them or whatever. How do we do that online? How do you achieve that? Because that's the answer to me. That's the new.
Well, you're absolutely right. How to do it? I don't know. I don't know that there's.
Why don't you have the answer, Chris?
Fuck, man, I'm so sorry. I need more coffee. I think that, like, it's like, how many ways can you cook a fucking potato, right? There's
not one answer for sure.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. It depends who you are and what it is you're trying to sell and what you're trying to push, right? Like,
I think that can be a dangerous word, and I think that people might shut off to hear that.
What part?
That's selling, everybody that I've had on this podcast, I've asked them, do you think about how you are perceived in the world with your art? And every single one of them said, absolutely, I think about that. Because we want to be admired for what we do.
I honestly don't.
Because here's the reason. Sorry to cut you off.
Yeah.
But it's because what that leads to is the ability for you to make more of what you believe in. That's where my head is at. I don't want to be. We don't need to be rich. No. We don't need to. I don't need to be driving a Bentley. I could give a shit about that.
Yeah.
But I want to drive a car that works.
Yeah.
And I want to be able to wake up and create something that matters to me every day, and find an audience that is willing to part with some of their money so that I can continually do that. That's the goal. That's the dream. And I think that everybody that I've talked to, and a couple of them have done certain things, like Patreon is a good example of that, like these outlets where they can reach enough people and get enough money so that they can live and create at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that that's the answer. And I think that when we say the word sell and stuff like that, it has a negative connotation as far as we're trying to make $1 bazillion off of our art. But it's like the word filter. The word filter used to be a negative word, but the word filter now, the word filter used to be a positive word because it meant that you could reach more people. But the filter word is being taken away now so that you have no filter, so that you can actually be genuine to people, and they like that. And now I look at the word sell yourself, and sell as people think of that as, okay, I'm trying to get rich. But no, I'm trying to sell myself to an audience that wants to listen to me, and in turn support me in a way where I can continually giving them what they want content-wise. But it's still you. And that's the catch. It's like, where do you exist in that realm? Like, how do we as artists, and I'm asking you, what's your plan? Where are you at? How do we exist as artists and have that ability to wake up every day? Because it sounds like you're doing it. You're waking up every day and you're creating things all day long.
Yeah.
Are you satisfied with that?
I hate to say it, I'm quite happy.
Cool.
But yeah, obviously you want to be able to, there are days, like, as much as I love playing, some days, even maybe my health's not there that day, or maybe I'm just like in a shit mood. I don't want to go work and play. So, I'd love to be able to get paid to stay at home and record music all day. That would be awesome. But yeah, you're right. If I could figure out how to
you said the word work. So I know it's work. I know what we do is work.
Yeah.
I often cite the example of these little vignette videos that I put together. They don't pay me anything, and I give them away for free. But they take many, many, many hours.
Oh, yeah.
Because what it does is it leads to more work.
Absolutely. No, absolutely.
What if the vignette videos became the product?
Yeah.
That's the goal. Because what it's doing now is it's leading to people going, hey, man, I didn't know that you did this. Like, can you do this on my record?
Well, exactly.
Which is great. It's your business card.
Yep.
Like you talked about. But, yeah, how now do you get to the point where, I know there's going to be days where you wake up, if you were recording all day long and that's your dream, there are going to be days you wake up and you're going to go, man, I don't feel like doing this today. Yeah. What about the day that you wake up and you go, I don't feel like doing this today, and you don't do it? Because you don't need to do it. Because you know that you're doing a disservice to yourself and your soul, because you're going to force yourself to create something that you know that's not going to be there. What if you can just wake up and be like, man, I can't do this today because I don't feel it? That would be the dream, as opposed to forcing yourself to go work.
Well, there are days when I can't do anything. Mm-hmm. That's for sure. Today was one of them.
Yeah. Is there a guilt feeling that comes with that?
Oh,
or do
huge,
you feel peaceful?
Huge.
Okay.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, I feel the same way. I know.
Yeah, it's hard for me to let myself have a day off.
Mm-hmm.
But I also, once I'm into doing something, I'm into the process of it, like, I'm in love with it all over again. But sometimes it's just the getting started. It's getting going is a pain in the ass. Now,
well, just like they say, yeah, the drive to the gym is the hard part, because once you get to the gym, then you're there.
Oh, totally.
Yeah.
That's And I have no idea what that feels like because I've never gone to the gym in my life.
But yeah, the drive to get to your studio
I've
and
walked
turn it
past
on.
a few,
and,
though.
yeah.
And, I mean, whew,
Yeah.
I was tired. They asked me never to come back.
They
there,
make you
so.
walk. They make you like walk in the same place. Like, why would you want to do
That's
that?
bullshit.
And like make you lift heavy things. Like
You can save so much time just taking the car.
But what if you could walk on those treadmills and it would make electricity for a city? That's the goal.
Oh.
I think there's
But I
a
wouldn't-
Black Mirror episode about
You know,
that.
but I wouldn't be able to like enjoy the electricity because I'd be too busy.
Is
on
he
this
too busy walking?
fucking treadmill? Oh, I was gonna go home and use my toaster today. But,
The toaster that comes alive.
Exactly.
as a
Yeah, I got my
Decepticon.
eye on that fucking thing.
So, but yeah, I mean, do you think that guilt feeling will ever go away? I mean,
I hope not.
yeah, I hope not too. I think that, but there's a certain, like the word work.
I don't think. See now, some people have that as a negative connotation. I don't think
I agree.
so.
Yeah,
I think work is great. But again, we're lucky.
Yeah.
Because if you ask the guy who's fucking digging graves or whatever,
Yeah.
I suspect he's
As my
probably
buddy always says, when we're in the studio and it's getting hard, he looks at me and goes, "Hey, we could be digging ditches."
exactly. Yeah, mine was always but beach shoveling shit.
Yeah.
But that's okay. Well, here's a weird thought.
You don't ever have any of those.
No, never. I was walking in the coffee shop, I don't know, a couple weeks ago, and there was a guy out there, and he had his headphones in, and he was washing the windows. And I never felt so envious. I'm like, I was like, I want that guy's job.
Yeah, I know that.
He doesn't have to fucking talk to anybody. You have to do it. Like, he goes home, and he's done working.
Yeah.
He's done. It's fucking over. There's always something we can be doing.
Well,
Like even
yeah.
today when we're both like, like what a rough, Tyler and I went out last night and had a little, we caught up, and we're both a little worse for wear. But you were like anxious, or like I got to do something. I got to do something.
Absolutely.
And I felt the same, but I just didn't have anything left in me today.
Yeah.
So I'll deal with the guilt of it tomorrow. But I'm working tomorrow, so that kind of like, that will hopefully wipe off most of the guilt of being a.
Well, the window washer thing is interesting. I always use the example of my issue with that is it's a tangible thing because what we do is not tangible.
No.
So I use cutting the lawn as an example.
Yeah.
Thankfully, I get my lawn cut. So
So do I.
so I need to find something else tangible.
That's a whole other story.
But when I would cut the lawn, 2.5, 3 hours, I'd be out there sweating my butt off, and then I'd come in the house, take a shower, and then look out the back window and go, "Yeah, that looks really, really great."
Cool, eh?
But then I started thinking to myself, I could pay somebody $40 to do that, and I could have 3 hours to do something else more productive that would either pay more or be more fulfilling. But then you lose that tangible idea of I'm still carrying something, and I might be further ahead along in what my goals are, but I don't have that thing to look at. It's like that's why I love fixing things and building things, like because I look at it like I love doing podcasts at the house on this dining room table that I built because I can look at it and be like, I did that,
Sense of accomplishment.
It's an accomplishment, but music doesn't give you that. So you're always
I
like,
disagree.
well, it would be a different type of accomplishment, a different feeling, like in a different part of your brain.
There are, yeah, I guess so. But I mean, to me, that's the best one.
I totally agree.
Like if you finish, okay, think about this. And it's hard for, we're always our own worst critics. But once in a while, when you do something that you're proud of, you go, yeah,
but here's the
nailed
thing.
it.
Here's the thing. It's never guaranteed. If I go cut the lawn, I know after those 3 hours, it's going to look badass.
Yeah, but what do you need a guarantee of?
You need what I'm saying. Yeah, I'm there with you, and I'm processing it as we're speaking. But if you sit down, you could sit down and spend 9-10 hours in the studio writing and building something, and then after 10 hours, you listen to it, or you wake up the next day and you listen to it and you hate it.
Yeah,
and you know that you if you think of the fact that and I'm getting over it myself, but I used to think that, oh man, I lost a day. But you didn't lose a day.
No.
It's like I didn't lose $9,000 on a record. I gained experience to get to the next place. So it's a slow build, and I'm learning that. That's something that's difficult for me, and I'm processing that about how do I deal with the slow build. And I know that as I climb up, there's going to be these little gems that come up along the way, but I got to keep climbing.
yeah.
So like the window washer's done. He knows he's making X amount of dollars for the day. He's listening to his tunes, and he can look at it and go, the window's clean. And you're right, that's a certain type of payoff. But it would almost be like...
I was just more into not having to like talk to people all day.
Yeah, I know. I went on a different place. Because the tangible thing is such a huge thing. But yeah, I read it as that when you first started talking about it.
But once people hear it, though, like think of the last 10 shitty songs you wrote, but the 11th song you wrote, you're like, there. And even if it does nothing, even if it doesn't make you $1, the fact that you could get something to a level where you are happy with it.
Yeah.
To me, it's like that wipes out those 10, 20, 100, terrible things that you couldn't get together. You know what I mean? That to me, that's the great thing about music. And I don't like, how many times can you cut your lawn and be like, yep, still every time's like the first time again. It's not like that. But with music, when you finish a really great song or a set or whatever, that's a high. Like there's nothing like that, right?
Well, let me ask you this question. So thinking about that to me is the end. For me, that's the peak. So to me, the peak of, if I like writing a fulfilling song that matters to me, that also works outside of me, that's the peak. So if I were to peel that back and I were to look at the different layers of life that just personally I've lived. So if you're like, you said a live set. So you're right. There are some nights where you're just like, holy crap, this has been magical. If you're in the studio, somebody sends me a track and I'm there with my horn section that I work with, and we deliver something that they really like. That's another good feeling. Or a song, but the song thing is the peak. Here's where I'm curious about, because the song thing to me is the newest thing. The other two things I feel pretty confident that it's like we can get it to that place quickly and more often because you practice that muscle. So I wonder with creativity where it is you and your being, because I know 9 times out of 10 or 9.9 times out of 10, if I have my horn section in my studio on a track, that the client is going to go, heck yeah, that's awesome.
Absolutely.
I got that. They might come back and say, hey, can you just add this or whatever? That's the most that really ever happens, because I know that we got that. But that's a form of creativity too, because we're creating horn lines, we're servicing the song, we're servicing the music, but it's not as deep as coming. Like it comes from a certain place in us. Like if I sing a line to somebody, I felt that, and it's being creative, and I'm getting paid to do that, and it works. It's a part of me. But when it's really you and it's all you, can that muscle be get stronger is my question. Like the Beatles, like Paul McCartney, did he just start out writing great songs, or was it like did he know that 7 times out of 10 when he sat down to write something that it was going to be great because he practiced that muscle? That's the question.
I think obviously if anything you spend any kind of time on,
you're going to get better
like that. Absolutely.
So are you better at accessing it in yourself, or are you better at just the process of it?
I think it's both. I think I'm good at going to that headspace because I don't really leave it.
You're always in it. You're writing down little
I'm always kind of thinking of something funny, and I'm always
Yeah.
keeping notes on ideas, or if I have an idea, like a lyric idea, I'll write it down right away. Like if I got pens and there's probably 10 pens sitting there, all this stuff, I've got pens and paper everywhere just in case that stuff comes up. iPhones are great. You can sing a voice memo, you sing a melody, or email it, save it to yourself, whatever, right? So I think if you can, I think staying in there, in that spot, is always good. And as far as creating the work, like anything, just keep doing it.
Yeah.
Like it's never going to hurt you even if you're just not, like if you're having an off day, if things aren't coming together, you're still in there just hammering through it. Like that's time well spent. You know what I mean? It's the 10,000 hours, the 20,000, whatever,
Yeah.
I'm sure we both passed the 10,000 hour mark some time ago.
Yeah.
But you don't stop there. Got my 10,000 hours. Time to pack it up and go wash windows, right?
Yeah.
Which again,
there have been times where I've thought to myself,
if ever there was a...
God, that would be so much easier.
Yeah, exactly.
But then is it easier because of the toll it takes on you, in your head?
But that's what I mean. But you got to have an expectation. Like, what is it you want?
Yeah.
And like we were talking earlier about all the things I do, I can do them anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
And they don't like me hanging out, writing and playing music and just drawing my little stupid cartoons. I can do that anywhere in the world, which is great. And I think if I had $1 million in the bank tomorrow, you'd probably still see me sitting at the coffee shop laughing to myself like an idiot with my headphones in and doing that. And then I'd get in my gold-plated Lamborghini and drive home. Mm-hmm. But what I'd be doing, is still the same thing, right? Like the same things are going to make you happy, right? If you haven't figured, at a certain age, I think, if you haven't figured out what it is that you do or what it is you like to do, you maybe never will. I could be wrong. Well, I was lucky, and I think you were lucky in that we figured out what we wanted to do at a really young age. Mm-hmm. And I've never really had to question what I was doing, whether that was what I wanted to do or not.
Yeah, I think you're right. We're lucky, but I think that as a human, you have different things that come into you. For me, I see that in you, and I've talked to people about that have that thing where they know early. When you say what makes you happy, I mean, there's so many facets. Like if you want to play guitar, there's so many ways you can be happy playing guitar. Mm-hmm. Like you can be on stage in front of 10,000 people, or you could, do living room concerts. Yeah. But there's so many ways of doing that. And I think that the thing that I'm learning the most right now is, I mean, I was always chasing the, like, how to be more successful. Chase. Like, how do I be touring in a tour bus? Okay, that wasn't so much fun. How do I be on the best sessions?
But getting there was, I'm sure.
Yeah, I mean, it's a fear-based thing. And the first podcast I had was a good buddy of mine, Roy Agee, who we were talking about today because he played with Prince.
Right.
And, we were talking about when is it okay for you to turn down the $300 wedding gig? That's the thing, man. And that's the thing that is so difficult to do. The word, no, I can't do it, it's a scary damn word. And I think that every musician has a little bit of that in them because you don't know what's coming next. The window washer knows there's going to be windows tomorrow he's got to clean. And I think that you're different. And you don't have that in you. And that's the beautiful gift. Like if I could see that, I see that in so many musicians. If I could pull that out of them and say, hey man, you don't need to be doing that gig. I see that so much in Nashville. And I've been wrong for sure. Because I'll look at a guy who is one of my most favorite musicians ever. And I'll look at them and the gig that they're doing, and I know what it pays, and I'll say, man, can I ask you a question? Why were you here at 3:30 for sound check? And to set up your whatever for a 5 o'clock sound check. Why did you play that 4-hour gig for that amount of money? And everybody's got their thing. And some of them, I didn't know at the time. Some of them would look at me and go, "Well, I've got 4 kids." I'm like, man, I don't get that. Like that's not in my wheelhouse. Yeah. Like, so props to you. Like I don't know what that feeling is. But some of them, I see it and I said, man, you could be, if you said no to this and the time that you would have to do something else with this time, you would be in a completely different place. Because I know you're unhappy. I see you unhappy in this situation. Yeah. Some of them are super happy. I mean, I see, some of them are just happy to be at the airport at 4:30 in the morning, to fly in to do a show and then fly out for a couple $100. Like they're happy doing that, and props to them. But it's the unhappy ones that I see, and I was that person at one point. And to see that and be like, man, just say no, because if you say no and open yourself up to something else, beautiful things will.
That's
and trusting that
easier said than done, of course, too, right? Trust. Well, I had this conversation with a really good pal of mine about a year ago, and we were talking about a friend of ours whose career was really starting to take off, and it's great because now you can't, but now you have to say no. You have to say no to this, because if you want to sell 500 tickets here, you can't be going and playing, to 50 people here, kind of thing. And we were both like, that's great on one hand. On the other side, we're just like, can you imagine not being able to fucking play every night?
And somebody telling you can't.
Like that's that's worse than death, man. Like,
Well, and you talked about that about Prince. You know, you were listening to his engineer, his right? His
yeah,
main
it was
engineer.
his engineer. I forget her name now. It was an awesome podcast put on by. I can look her up if you'd like.
Yeah, she said this story of, and I see that with a lot of country artists do this a lot, where they'll pull up to a venue, and I've seen really big artists do this, and something will happen where a certain age can't get in or something like that, and they'll go out and play like 4 or 5 songs in the parking lot to 10 people, and it just, that I think is the move now. And Prince did the same thing with the children, right? The children's hospital.
Yep. If I can find, I'm just kind of looking her up here. If I can find her name, it was it was at an electronics like convention. She did a talk. She teaches at Berkeley now. Oh, here, Susan Rogers on print. Yeah, if you can find that. If you go to Ableton's.
Oh, it was an Ableton podcast?
It was cool. 4 months ago.
Right on.
And it's one of the most inspiring things I've ever listened to, like podcast. Like just a wealth of knowledge, and yeah.
Well, that's something the country artists have always been doing and getting right. Like, you have to have a one-on-one kind of relationship with the artist. I see it in the meet. I've seen it with a lot of it with the meet and greets. You can't be. I did a tour with a indie rock band that will remain nameless. Very famous at the time. I mean, we did a really big TV show, and then they did some shows, and I had just toured with a country artist who did everything to please people. And I remember sitting there on the bus with him, and there was about 20 kids outside, you know, and I got to know the guys well enough by now where we were all kind of hanging out and talking, and the manager came up and said, "Hey, listen, like these people weren't able to get into the show. Do you mind just coming and saying hello?" And literally the artist was like, "Absolutely not. This is my time. I'm not getting off the bus." And I had just gotten off tour with a guy that walks in and hugs the guy running the forklift at the arena.
That's important.
Totally important. Yeah. So the idea that you can't play to 50 people because you're selling out a 500 seat thing, that's not the move, man. Yeah. Whoever's telling that person that is wrong.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah. I think that the country people have always done that right, and that's the way it works now. You can't treat people that care about you like that.
But that's why country music is the only place still selling records. Like,
yeah.
You know, that's my suspicion.
Because they want something to hold in their hands.
It's family. Yeah, they're all in it together.
Yeah.
Whereas, but there is a danger in some of that too. I think is who was I talking to about this? I want rock stars. Like, I still like.
Of course, I see that.
Give me, like, Lemmy looks like. It looks like a fucking superhero. Like, those are the guys I want. I do want a bit of mystique around some of these bands.
Yeah,
right?
But look at Alice Cooper. He
totally
had that
normal dude.
Yeah, he had that FU attitude on stage, but then he's the nicest guy.
Well, that's great. Yeah, and that's totally loud. But sometimes it's like I see it's a little too top heavy, I suppose, with the social media and all my fans and all that. And it's all that. It's like it's a cult of personality.
Well, you can tell if they're not being real.
But not even that. No. But even if they are, and I mean, sometimes it's like that's all they are.
Yeah.
Is they're just, hey, it's like, okay, well, now get on with it, right?
Yeah.
It becomes more about like.
Well, it's not about the music; it's about a culture.
Exactly.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
I see that.
that I don't dig too much.
I totally understand.
And with the world of social media, that's becoming even easier to be well known for being well known.
Well, I was listening to a branding person talk the other day, and it scared the heck out of me. But it's exactly what's happening, where music is becoming the first in for a lot of these people to market whatever they want to market to.
What I really want to do is sell shoes,
exactly.
But first I'm going to have to drop a single.
That's
or
the Justin Bieber brand, the Taylor Swift brand. I mean, it's Taylor gets in bed with Target, and it's like that's a thing now.
Yeah.
But she built it on the music, and that's her prerogative, and good for her because she's kicking ass.
Yeah.
But that's the beautiful thing though about choices. You have a choice now. It's like I have been hanging out with people and talking to different people about music, and they'll tell me 10 names of bands that I've never heard of, and I go to their Spotify playlist, and they're getting like 9 million streams a month. and I've never heard of these people. And I don't pretend to be up and up on everything.
No.
But and I don't have an example ready, but if I told you the name of the band and I told 10 people, nobody would know who these people are. But they're building their following. They're building it online, and and I don't want to say the word cult because that's negative.
Yeah.
They're building their...
Well, not mine. Wait till you check out my cult.
Yeah.
Do you like Kool-Aid?
Your cult might be a little frightening for a few people. But yeah, I think that's a beautiful thing. That's the positive part of it. They're making a decent living. They're making their $50,000, $60,000 a year. I mean, do you really need more than that? I don't know. You know, some people do. But it's like they're making that, and they're making their music. You know, I don't know, man. That might be the move. You know.
Well, yeah. I think we were talking about this yesterday. But you don't need 1 million people buying your record.
No. The 1,000 true fan thing, which I've talked about on this podcast with a few people.
Yeah.
If you get 1,000 people that buy everything that you put out, yeah.
Yeah. I'm working on the 10 true fan thing.
Yeah, that's good. How's that working for you?
8. We're at 8 right now.
It's good. I mean, are they 8 millionaires or are they just 8?
I don't know. There was 7.
So if we did the math, let's do the math. So you have a Patreon account. If we did the math, so if you have 1,000 fans,
okay.
If you have 1,000 fans and each of them gave you $4 a month, you would make $52,000 a year.
Wow.
And here's the other thing that if you look at these companies that are doing subscription-based services now,
let me grab my calculator for that last part.
Like a Dropbox, and I don't know this number. I just read this offhand, but like I think it's something like if you charge somebody $9.99 a month for a year, it's surprising how, I don't know the number, but I read it and I could do the numbers, but I don't really feel like it. But how low that number was of how many people you needed to make $1 million in a year. It was super. And there's somebody listening going, God damn, it's this number.
No, there's like an actuary listening going, got it.
Yeah. But the like $4 a month from 1,000 people and you make 52 grand.
Sounds like a pyramid scheme.
I guess it is, but it's a good
no,
it's a beautiful
not
pyramid.
if you're giving them something in return.
Of course.
It's
I mean,
not.
Well, yeah, Patreon, you totally are. You're giving them access to you. You're giving them downloads. You're giving them. Sometimes you're doing Skype things with them. I mean, you're doing different. There's different options. It's a beautiful process.
Do you have one of those?
No, I'm gonna put one together. Though.
Oh, okay.
I'm deep in the thick of it.
Can I give you my $4 now?
Just buy me a beer.
Done. Oh, again, that'll trick.
I think that's it. 1,000 fans, man.
That'd be all right, man.
And think about it. I mean, you could print merch on top of that and give different levels. I mean, that's what's beautiful about it. There's like Pomplamoose is the guy from Pomplamoose is the guy that started that thing. It was a duo that just made had a bunch of videos on YouTube that got millions and millions of hits. And also that part of it too is out there. If you do something that's really cool that goes viral, I mean, you get paid for that stuff.
Well, the one thing I was trying to get going with my website, but it's never really sort of formed, that was kind of based on that. I just wanted to do, and I still do, if anyone is listening that can make this happen, I want to do like a farm to table. So I can go up to my office, write and record something, and I can put it on my website, and if you want to purchase it, bingo bango, PayPal on the site. I need that kind of a setup.
Oh, it exists. I'll show you.
All right,
I'm deep in the thick of that too. So
yeah, but
it's not
but to me,
that expensive to make that happen.
But that's the beautiful thing is that like for guys like us, that's a reality. And
wait till cryptocurrency takes over.
There you go. Go down there again.
Oh.
But my point is that the weekend can't do that.
No.
I don't know if that was my point. Anyways, I just kind of decided to make that my point.
Well, here's what the weekend.
We have that freedom.
Here's what he just did, though, which I thought was brilliant. Is he dropped a 6-song EP and nobody knew it was coming, and that just like shocked everybody. It was like on a Friday, and he put a little thing out on Instagram the night before and was like to the producer, "Hey, should we drop it tomorrow?" And people just went nuts. And he followed through and he dropped it, and it was the number one thing for many months. So they're doing a little bit of that, but
for many months, or like, I mean, how?
Oh, it's probably still on the top of the chart. I don't know.
Okay, because I feel like the whole cycle, like whether it's news or whether it's music or whatever, the cycle for anything now is like you get a week tops.
Well, unless you're Drake, that dude is like setting records for top 10s. I mean, it's ridiculous. Like, it's ridiculous.
Somebody's got to do it, right?
But does that any matter anymore? Like the top 10? I don't think so.
Wouldn't know. I've never.
Yeah. I don't think it matters, man.
Again, I'm working on the top million.
Yeah.
I'm going to try and break the top million one day.
I mean, who would you? Yeah, I don't know. All that Billboard and all that stuff. It just doesn't matter.
Again, we'll never know, but those numbers could all be adjusted and pumped up and inflated. I don't know.
Of course.
I'm not accusing anybody.
Well, what they used to do back in the day, they still do it with books. Is so if you put your book together and you had it out, what happens is you go out, if you've already had success, is you go out and you buy 100,000 copies of it, and then you redistribute those copies, so that makes it a New York Times bestseller. That's what labels did back in the 90s and 2000s. Is there would already be. That's why it was like I think Eminem sold 1.8 million in the first week. Those were pre-bought by the label. Those were not. I mean, there was a lot of people that bought his record.
Yeah.
But the numbers were definitely inflated. So
Okay, well, explain this to me.
I don't know if I have an answer. I was probably wrong about that thing I just said.
In the 90s, how did I get 10 CDs for a penny?
I just literally just listened to an NPR thing on that, and I wasn't engaged enough to give you a response, but it went deep into the whole Columbia House thing and how it all worked.
I suspect, and I have no idea, my guess is it was probably overrun or something like that.
Yeah, and the way that CDs, yes. And the gist of it was, if you bought, it was a Seth Godin. It's super short, dude. You should definitely check it out if you're interested in it. He talked about, man, I wish I was more engaged in it. And Seth Godin is a brilliant entrepreneur and sees the world in a really interesting way. And he's got a podcast called Akimbo, and he talks about that particular branding element. And yeah, I'm not gonna do it a disservice. You just need to listen.
Okay,
to it.
okay.
I'll send it to you.
Now, how do I get Ed McMahon to show up?
Is he still alive?
No.
Okay.
So maybe.
Do you really want him to show up? That would actually be kind of cool.
I would be shocked.
A ghost of Ed McMahon showing up with a check.
I just want the check.
The big check?
The big check.
Do you think did people actually cash those?
I think he was buried with them. I think.
Wow.
So if you're listening out there, there are tens of millions of
treasure
dollars
hunt.
in somewhere in Burbank.
Are they blank?
Or wherever. Well, I don't know.
I mean, how do those big checks work? That should be something that somebody should look into.
I just want one.
I bet you could have one made for like $10 or $15.
Oh my God! I had a poster of my drummer in a bathrobe made and put it up at one of our gigs before.
Brilliant.
I'll show it to you later. It's the best $30 I ever spent.
I trust you. I'm good. I don't probably need to see that, but I think I trust you. I'm going to give you the benefit of the doubt on that one. Well, thanks for doing this, dude. I appreciate it.
Hey, no problem, buddy.
And thanks for lending me your couch.
Oh, of course, anytime.
And shall we go get that beer?
Yeah, let's do that.
All right. Cheers, bud.
Watch this heavy heart of mine turn this water into wine. Light your match and let it glow, so I know my way home. One more game of tic-tac-toe. You be X and I'll be you. Fall in love like dominoes, then I'll come back home. If I can't find you, go get lost in the simple things. Might I remind you, chase your tail and dream those dreams. One more glass to set me free. Forget right past what's in front of me. I'll be fine, they tell me so, 'cause I know my way home.